So then I'll just do a couple slides on here. I know most of you, we need to think about how women and men respond differently, and that's where the science is moving. And when we think about interval training, it falls in line. We know a lot of differences between men and women are less fatigable. And if you don't believe me, you can come to the lab, and most of our men drop out of the studies and the women don't, right? And that's just different physiology. But why it matters here is that typically women have greater vasodilation, they're able to remove byproducts, and they have better mitochondrial adaptations. So why does that matter? That the work to rest ratio probably has to be different for women to see the same benefit. So essentially higher intensity, potentially lower rest, or better occlusion to see some adaptations. The other application, we did this study in mice, and the application to humans is this. Any of you in here worked with a female that gained fat and lost muscle with exercise? Or maybe they don't want to admit it. Or we blame it on the diet. Maybe their diet was really bad. Well, it's called a paradoxical response, and it happens to men too. But essentially, what we saw in mice and have since kind of seen in humans is that HIIT can blunt those paradoxical responses. Essentially, women that do HIIT will see a drop or a maintenance of fat, an increase or maintenance in muscle. We won't see these dramatic changes. So that's a pretty exciting way when we think about an application to helping females, particularly as they translate to menopause. Genetic background, sex, intensity, all influence exercise responses, but the one benefit that we're seeing with HIIT is that it may be universal. Another thing to think about is that mitochondrial biogenesis may differ between males and females. So this study was at 4 weeks of 9 sessions. There was no differences in things like VO2 max, peak power, when accounting for fat-free mass. So women and men can respond the same if we're trying to see fitness changes. However, there are differences in protein synthesis and mitochondrial oxidation. So what the heck does this mean? Well, it means we probably need to pay closer attention to nutrient timing for our women, as well as our work to rest ratio for our women, if our goal is to maintain muscle, particularly as we transverse through aging. And then lastly, this is more to plant a seed because it needs a lot more data, but the idea that interval training can accelerate cognition, we can't